What's up, guys? It's KB. Make sure you subscribe to the Underground Sports Philadelphia YouTube channel. Click the bell icon down below so you don't miss a single video from us. And thanks for tuning in to another video from Underground Sports Philadelphia. Now let's get into it.
Philadelphia, baby, you're going to love it. Best sports fans in the world. Actually, the worst, but that's what makes them the best.
What is going on, OTB Nation? Welcome into episode number 249 of the Outside the Box podcast, the official lacrosse podcast on the Underground Sports Philadelphia Podcast Network. It's KB and Deej coming at you from Underground Studios. Deej will actually be in studio next week. Don't forget, on December 2nd, 2022, we have our Wings at Thunderbirds live watch-along going down, live stream. Come be in the chat with us. We're going to be chilling in Underground Studios, doing the damn thing. You don't want to miss it. It's going to be Manning Cast-esque. So tap in for that. Make sure you subscribe to the YouTube channel. That's where we're going to be live. It's going to probably be the first company live stream on YouTube. What a way to test run it than with two knuckleheads talking lacrosse with something that has been a core of this company, and that's Philadelphia Wings. So don't miss that. Put it in your calendars. Friday, December 2nd, next Friday. Anyway, we got a lot to dive into. We got our final NLL season preview. We're kicking it old school with the old school East Division. Philly, Georgia, Albany, New York, Final Four. And we got some awesome stuff. Also, big shout out to the Philadelphia Wings. We're breaking the fourth wall here. Deej and I are recording this on Monday because Thanksgiving is this week, and we got things to do on Thanksgiving. So if anything happens later in the week that we miss, DJ and I will either make some sort of like YouTube short, Instagram reel type thing touching on it, or we'll just tweet about it. One of the two, or both. So apologies if we miss something that goes down, but it is nice that stuff happened today, DJ. We'll talk about to kick off the show. But big shout out to the Philadelphia Wings. They reached out today, and on this episode of OTB, the long-awaited debut on this podcast, we will be joined by head coach and GM of the Philadelphia Wings, Paul Day. Paul Day has been an exceptional human to me personally, to Alex McIntyre, Brooke Destra, our whole crew since we started this podcast. Like, to put it in perspective for everybody, like how close and like trustworthy I've gotten with Paul Day. Like, he shot me a message the day my dad came home from the hospital with COVID saying, glad to see dad's doing better and that he's home. What a champion. Like, that's the type of relationship I have with Paul Day, and that is something that, like, I feel totally cool being transparent about because, like, Paul Day is, like, that genuine of a human, and I'm excited to talk to him later in the show, so you won't want to miss that, and it won't be the last time that he's on this podcast. We've been working on getting Coach Day on the show for quite some time, even before Deej was my co-host. Like, we had been, like, plotting and scheming, trying to find the right opportunity, and it just so happened, shout out to the Philadelphia Wings for reaching out. So Paul Day will be joining us later in the show. But before we get started, breaking down.
I'm going to admit that, like, it's me.
It's you. You're the good luck charm.
I brought you so much fortune. Your Philadelphia fandom has skyrocketed 500% since I've been in the picture. Like,
you've low-key adopted Philadelphia as your third home.
Yes. Absolutely.
It goes Michigan, Chicago, Philadelphia, and I feel like Philly is getting a puncher's chance at Chicago pretty soon.
It is. Because when that purge law goes into effect, we're I don't know about Chicago.
Before we dive into some of the big trades and signings that have gone down over the weekend and today, as we record this on Monday, and get into our final season preview before the NLL kicks off for 2022-2023, make sure you guys are following us on the socials at OTBLaxPod, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook.com/UndergroundSportsPHI, and make sure you subscribe to the podcast feed. Subscribe. It goes a long way for Deej and I continuing to grow this show, gets more ears on this thing, and just for reference, we have personal stories of this. There are pro lacrosse players who listen to the podcast. So you can be one of those people joining the likes of Ryan Brown, Chase Frazier, and a whole lot of other people, Michael Sowers, listening to OTB just by clicking subscribe. Like we've said, Thanksgiving is this week. At the dinner table, before you guys sit down to enjoy your meals, tell everyone, pull your phones out, search OTB outside the box on your podcast app of choice, subscribe, leave a 5-star review. Follow DJ on Twitter at SCS_NextGreat. Follow me at KBIZZL311. And make sure you guys subscribe to the YouTube channel, youtube.com/@undergroundsportsphiladelphia. That's where you get full video episodes of OTB and all of our podcasts on the network. Be like Colin Squires. Take in all of the content we produce. Shout out to Colin. He's a homie. But smash that like button, ring the bell icon, comment down below with your thoughts on our predictions for all the old school East teams this season. And, be a friend, tell a friend. Share that YouTube channel with your people. We're at 311 subscribers. I truly feel like by the end of 2022, we can get to 400. But it all starts with you. You listening to this right now, go subscribe to the YouTube channel. But Deej, what's going on, my man? We've got one final preview before lacrosse is back on our televisions. Eddie's muted.
Dude, I'm excited. I've started coaching box a little bit over the summer or over the winter. It's only on Sunday nights for 3 hours.
See, Deej is allowed to say winter because in Michigan it is winter right now.
Hey, dog. Dog.
Don't worry. It's winter here too.
Bro, no. It ain't winter there.
No, it is.
You live in Buffalo?
Bro, that's Planet Hoth from Star Wars.
Then it ain't winter because we're right behind them.
That video from Buffalo, did you see the tweet? Somebody said, this is the shit they had SpongeBob delivering the pizza in.
Dog, because we had like 30-some inches this weekend. Like, legit, we're right behind them. Like, it's dead-ass winter here.
See, we don't have the snow, but we just got like that like brick type of like cold, and I hate it. I hate the cold. You guys know I hate the cold. DJ hates the cold. So come get toasty here on OTB because we got some hot signings that just went down and some hot trades. I forget if we touched on it last week, if it came through the pipeline before or after we recorded. But Trevor Baptiste, 2-year deal with the Wings. Shout out to the homie. He's back. And Diggs, keep your paws off Trevor. I don't know if you saw Diggs' tweet. He said, come sign in San Diego. You have enough.
Didn't they draft one?
They signed Connor Farrell.
And they signed Connor Farrell. But I think Sisselberger went back to school, didn't he?
Yeah, he wasn't like eligible because he like didn't declare or something like that. Keep your hands off Trevor. He's a Philly boy. And then we also had, I guess Buffalo listened to the podcast. They signed Dane. Dane Smith signs a 1-year deal. The day after the day we released the podcast, so I guess Buffalo's front office got in early. Dane signs a 1-year deal with Buffalo to remain with the Bandits. And then the Calgary Roughnecks traded Nate Wade, former Philadelphia wing. He's the guy that you have to say his name 3 times. He's kind of like Beetlejuice. You have to say Nate Wade, Nate Wade, Nate Wade. Got traded to Panther City, so he's reunited with TK in exchange for Panther City's 5th-round pick in the 2024 entry draft. And then on top of that, we had the Thompson brothers going full-blown like Voltron on the NLL. Jeremy Thompson traded from Panther City to Georgia in exchange for a conditional 3rd-round pick in 2023. So the Thompson brothers are reunited. The triad is together in Georgia. You got Lyle, Miles, and Jeremy, all 3 facets of the Thompson brothers now playing together this season.
So there's word that Jerome is in Albany's training camp.
He is.
Could
previously played with Georgia.
Are there possible moves to get him back there? And is this a last hoorah for someone? Is,
for
is
Jeremy.
is someone about to hang the cleats? And is that why they're going? Is that why they're all teaming up, or are they all about to hang the cleats? NLL wise, anyway. I don't think Lyle's done field wise.
I don't think Lyle's done NLL wise. I think Lyle, especially puts credence in the importance of both the NLL and the PLL. Miles, I don't know, because obviously Miles has had his layoff, but he did come back last year for Georgia, so I don't know if he's strictly just playing NLL now. And then Jeremy, he's the oldest of the three. So, I mean, it wouldn't surprise me if this is, potentially last hurrah. But, I mean, I still think Jeremy has a lot left in the tank from what we saw from him in Panther City last year. So we'll see. It's an interesting move. I don't know exactly who was taking faceoffs for Georgia last year. I totally forget. But I would assume Jeremy might assume at least a part-time role in that, because that's what he did in Saskatchewan. That's what he did in Panther City. So we'll see. I don't hate the move. I think it's a solid move for both ends. And then, Nate Wade going to Panther City is a solid pickup for them as well. And then, unfortunately, Deej, your boy, speaking of Albany, placed on season-ending IR from the active roster today. Travis Longboat.
Ow. Ouch.
Tough one for the brand.
Tough one for the brand. What a name. That will forever be an amazing name to me.
Yes.
I'm trying to remember, what was that one name? There's a name I texted you. Oh, Steel Chambers. That
it's a good one.
Might be the best sports name I've ever heard.
Is it better than the coldest?
Yeah, because he played defense. Steel Chambers.
Fair.
And he played defense.
I also think, speaking of Steel, I think Steel Stanwyck is a fantastic name.
Also, and he was amazing. It just, oh man, I heard that and I just froze.
You went to coldest.
Yeah, literally.
But yeah, we've got our final season preview to get into.
Kevin Crowd will control up top. The Big Cat looking for his hat trick, as are a couple other wings. Here's Matisse, and he gets one. Matisse around a screen.
Out here, and one. And have since dropped 6 of the last 7. So they did tonight. Sung out his back, active for the Riptide as well. Running the middle. Here's Lobos on the outside and scores! He beats ball there to that corner.
Ruck on the power play, 1-for-1. Ryan Bennett scoring the goal, and now the Firewolves have the lead again. Bressa Terrence, number 2.
Here we go. The Swarm with their opening possession of the new season. Shane Jackson, Jacko lines up and fires and scores!
And that's just patented Shane Jackson right there. And what a better way to start for the Georgia Swarm yet.
The old school East Division. DJ and I were talking before we started recording, and we feel like these 4 teams, especially now with the Jeremy Thompson news that happened today, these 4 teams on top of the San Diego Super Seals, obviously Las Vegas coming into the fold, and then Toronto, these 4 teams have made significant franchise-altering moves this offseason that could change the trajectory of the East as a whole, including the likes of Buffalo, Toronto, Rochester, Halifax, and the like. I think the biggest one, Deej, in my opinion, you could tell me if you disagree, but I think the biggest one is the Wings just saying, we're going to go balls to the wall, and we're going to go sign an MVP candidate who Paul Day knows very well, and we're going to bring Joe Resetaritz in to play alongside Ben McIntosh and go all in on winning a championship along with our young core of Matt Rambo, Blaze Reardon, Trevor Baptiste. Adding Resetaritz into the fold, I think, was one of the biggest moves of the entire offseason. We obviously had Joe on the pod earlier this year, so go check that out if you missed it. But I think stealing Resetaritz from Albany, who Albany last year was a Wings killer. That was the team that, if they were playing, I was like, fuck, they're going to lose. they just had their number last year. They played that death by 1,000 cuts defense. And I think stealing an MVP candidate, one of the league's top goal scorers, to come in and kind of be your guy, I think that's a massive move by Paul Day and company to steal a guy from in the division and to come be like the face of what a potential championship run could be.
I couldn't believe Albany let him do it. Like they didn't really, fight it too hard and try and keep him there. They kind of just let him go. They kind of just let him go, and it was what it was. Like, it's almost scary. Like, but then again, you turn around and you look at what Albany did with their offseason, and you're like, okay, now it kind of does make sense because he could have fit into that scheme, but he kind of doesn't in what they're putting together now. So really smart move. I like it for both sides, and definitely the biggest move of the offseason because of the waves it shook afterward.
Yeah, 100%. Like, that move led to Kevin Crowley being in San Diego. Like, that's the trade-off. You sign Terrence, Kevin Crowley's now in San Diego. So you lose the big cat. And the other moves that the Wings made this offseason, Isaiah Davis-Allen is back, Trevor's back, Matt Rambo's back, Blaze is back on a 3-year deal. I think that's huge in terms of just, like, the front office for the Wings showing confidence in Blaze as a forward. Not that they didn't before, but I feel like, when you're bringing in talent like Terrence, McIntosh, year in and year out, like, your Blaze, you're sitting there like, okay, am I still going to fit into the equation? And I think he 100% does. I think Blaze is a 20 to 25 goal scorer consistently on this team and plays a massive role. Corey Vitarelli is back for this team. Kyle Matisse is back for this team. And obviously, you're going to get a full year of Sam LeClaire and Kyle Jackson for the Wings, which I think is huge. But I was skeptical at first when Terrence was the move, and it's like, okay, you're letting a franchise icon and Kevin Crowley walk. Let's see what happens. But as the roster's filled out, you go through the draft. I really like what the Wings have done this offseason. That's who we're going to start off with, which, Deej, I feel like I have to do this. Here we go.
I really wish my hat would come in the mail already.
Yeah, it's very confusing that yours has not arrived.
I'm about to call somebody real quick.
Mike. I got to throw the Wings hat on for this breakdown. Let's get into it, Deej. The Philadelphia Wings. Here is their schedule for the month of December. Obviously, December 2nd, like we mentioned. Don't miss it. Deej and I, live, youtube.com/@undergroundsportsphiladelphia. Live watch along, Friday, December 2nd, for Wings at Thunderbirds. That is the first game of the season, is Wings at Thunderbirds. Then the Wings go down to Georgia for what will probably be another 10-11 final score to take on the Georgia Swarm. Those are the two games the Wings have in the month of December. How do you see those two transpiring?
1-1. I think Georgia's going to get them in this one. I think the brothers are going to be happy to get back together. And it's always a tough game between those two. And it's going to be a tight one, but Georgia's going to pull out. Ironically, because they're obviously starting a rookie goaltender pretty much. But I think Dobson's going to end up getting the start down there. He's going to be phenomenal because that's Dobson. And then as far as playing Halifax, like we've mentioned 1,000 times, kind of how they're just not really that good.
Yeah, they're like kind of a wait-and-see type of team. I have the Wings going 2-0 in the month of December. They've played Georgia extremely well over the past couple of years. It's always close. It's always competitive. But I like the way that the Wings match up against them. And then same thing with Halifax, Kyle Jackson revenge game. I don't think KJ47 is going to allow this Wings team to go to Halifax and walk away with anything but a win. And of course, Deej, when you move into a new year like 2023, you got to go in with your new merch. That's right. PHI Apparel Company, the official merch partner of Underground Sports Philadelphia. They provide the best unique designs for the great fans of lacrosse. Outside the Box podcast logo merch is available right now on their storefront. And there's no doubt that when you're rocking their unique designs, along with our unique designs, you're going to stand out in the crowd at your favorite NLL team's games this season. I'm challenging anybody who orders our merch and wears an OTB shirt to a game. Take a picture in the crowd. We want to see it. Tweet it at us. Tag us on Instagram at OTBLaxPod. Get your merch. And you guys can use code UNDERGROUND for 10% off when you shop online at phiapparel.co. That's phiapparel.co. Code UNDERGROUND for 10% off. And I'm hoping, fingers crossed, by the time you guys are listening to this, our Black Friday, Cyber Monday merch capsule will be live, which is absolute heat. DJ has seen it. I'm adding one more, I think, into the fold for OTB listeners. And if you're watching on YouTube, you might have a little bit of a glimpse as to what it might look like.
About to make me watch the episode.
So go to phiapparel.co and use code UNDERGROUND for 10% off your merch. Deej, the month of January looks like this for the Wings. They go to Las Vegas to take on the Desert Dogs. Then they are home against Panther City, home against Toronto, and then home against Buffalo for Friday Night Lacrosse to wrap up the month of January. Tough month of January, I will say. But Vegas, Panther City, Toronto, and Buffalo.
2-2. We've talked now over a year, whether it's on pod or off pod, about how much the Wings struggle with Toronto. Buffalo is still a powerhouse, but I think Vegas will have a tough time this year, as we've talked about, with them being an expansion team. And then the other one, Panther City, after unloading Jeremy Thompson, I mean, and some of the other moves they've made, like, they're going to be an interesting team, but I think the Wings have enough to beat them this time.
I completely agree at 2-2. Although I will say history has proven the Wings and Buffalo match up like really well, but Buffalo just always seems to have that final oomph in the tank at the end of games to squeak them out. But it wouldn't shock me if the Wings and Buffalo go like toe to toe, and that's a final possession type of game. But I'm gonna go 2-2 as well. Month of February, Albany comes to town, February 4th. To Philadelphia. Then the Wings go to Buffalo, and those are the two games in the month of February for the Wings. So we might see maybe some Wings playing in the championship series. I don't know, but we'll see how that all shakes out once we get more details on who's allowed to play. But two games in February, home against Albany and then at Buffalo.
I'll have to go 1-1, but I don't know who's going to win what game. So don't ask me.
I'm going to go very homer on this one because every time they play in Buffalo seems to be when the Wings have their firepower. I'm going to go 2-0. I think Terrence is going to have a game against both of his former teams and get the job done for the Wings in February. They'll be pretty rested, and I like their chances there. Then the month of March, we've got Saturday morning lacrosse. This game starts at 11:30 a.m. Eastern Time. New York Riptide at the Philadelphia Wings. And then we've got Monday night lacrosse the same weekend. Wraparound Toronto in Philly once again. Then Philly goes to New York. Then Georgia comes to Philly. And then Philly goes to Rochester on a back-to-back. And then Halifax comes to Philly to wrap up the month of March. So to recap there real quick for the people at home. Home against the Riptide. Home against Toronto. Road against the Riptide. Home against Georgia. Road against Rochester. Home against Halifax. 6 games in the month of March.
4-2. 4-2.
I agree. I think 4-2 is the call.
Yeah,
which, if they go 4-2, that's a massive catalyst forward for their season going into April and for the playoff push.
100%. That's a big month. But I think just looking at the matchups, they're very favorable for them. They could possibly squeeze out 5-1.
I agree.
I have them splitting with New York, but they could very possibly sweep New York for the month. I don't really believe that, but it's very possible, Or
See, I have them losing to Toronto because until they prove to me that they can freaking beat Toronto,
there's that too. They could beat
there's
Toronto
that.
and still split. There's so many ways for them to go 5-1 or 6-0 in this month and just waltz into the last month and a half of the season feeling like rock stars.
And then I have Georgia as kind of a coin flip because, again, they always play each other tough. And that game is also a Saturday morning game, 11 a.m. Eastern time start. So 2 Saturday morning games in the month of March for the Wings, which will be very great for me. I will be on the caffeine. Then we move to the final month of the season. Sunday night lacrosse, April 2nd. Rochester at Philly. We always know. Get the boxing gloves out for that one because I'm sure our boy Mr. Dawson's going to be chirping away at the Philadelphia Wings. Then the Wings go to Toronto, and then they go to Albany, and then they go to Rochester. So they end the year 3 straight road games. Rochester, Toronto, Albany, Rochester.
2-2. I think they're going to split.
I have them going 3-1. I think they're going to need to win that Albany game one way or another for either seeding or to kind of knock Albany out of the playoff picture. So I'm going to go 3-1, which puts the Philadelphia Wings in 2022-2023 for DJ at 1, 3, 4, 8, and 10. So that's 10-8 on the season, which I think was their record last year, if I'm not mistaken. And then I have them at 2, 4, 6, 10. I have them at 13-5, which that's like, if they go 13-5, that is competing for the 1 seed with the likes of Buffalo and Toronto and stuff like that, which would be great. And I would love to see them take that next jump after making the postseason last year as a wild card. Taking that next leap would be huge. Deej, your Philadelphia Wings team MVP.
I think it's still Joe Rositeris. I think he continues to play as well as he did last year. Because I think he's getting put now into what will be a very similar system to what they were running last year in Albany, but with better offensive weapons around him to just bolster his season.
I'm going to go Ben McIntosh. I think having Rositeris there is only going to enhance his game. And I loved what I saw from Ben last year in a Wings uniform. I think it's only going to progress that much more as we move along with those two together and then just the young guys around them. And I think, alternatively, if they're going to go 13-5, like I said, Zach Higgins is going to have to be an MVP for this team as well. But Deej, that brings us to our next team, the Georgia Swarm, or should I say the Georgia Thompsons, because it's the Thompsons world. We're just living in it. The Georgia Swarm, obviously last week we talked about Joel White and Jordan Hall retiring. Mike Poulin retired at the end of last year. So new goalie in town for Georgia to start this year. Some new pieces for the Swarm as well. They're always in the mix, to be contenders. Missed the postseason last year, if I'm not mistaken. But I mean, they're always going to be around. They're always going to be a team they're going to be like their team mascot. They're going to be buzzing around in your ear and being a pest. And they've got the best lacrosse player on the planet on their roster.
I say when you have anybody with the last name Thompson in the sport of lacrosse, you're gonna have some buzz around you. And you have 3 of them, you're gonna have a lot of buzz around you.
Yeah, I'm trying to see if I misspoke I forget if they made the playoffs last year or not.
I don't think so. I think the Wings had their
They
last
missed.
spot.
Yeah, the Wings got it. Because it was Buffalo, Toronto, Halifax, Albany in the Wings.
Yeah, and the Wings went over and played San Diego. Yeah. And
So,
lost.
I mean, there's a lot of young guys as well on this Georgia team to, go with Lyle, Miles, Shane Jackson. Just looking at their roster, like you mentioned earlier, Brett Dobson shaping up to be the goalie for this team, which you and I like for this roster a lot. Obviously, the boy Craig Wendy is on this team as well. And then just going through J-Mac is on this roster. Jordan McIntosh, a homie for sure. And then Mike Manley's on this roster. Andrew Q traded here in the offseason from Albany, who we'll get to later on in the show. TJ Comizio is on this roster as well. He was a big-time piece for them, late in the season on that defensive side of things. Ryan McSpading is on this roster. Brian Cole is on this roster, who we saw really emerge in the PLL this year. I think he could be huge for them in transition once again. They've got pieces, and I'm not saying that they can't be good, and they also get Ryan Lanchberry this season as well, who I think will contribute a lot, but I don't know. You have Lyle, you have Miles, you have Shane Jackson, but outside of those three guys on the offensive side of things, there's a lot of question marks that I still need answered for this Georgia Swarm team going into 2022-2023. They traded away a lot of the pieces that I really liked for them. I think Andrew Q coming into the fold, having some chemistry with Shane Jackson from their time on the Cannons will be big. But how are you feeling about Georgia going into this season? Because I'm kind of I'm lukewarm on them.
I'm very interested because I feel like it has a very similar dynamic to the Cannons. I don't understand how Lyle's putting up with that year round per se, for lack of a better term to say put up with, because it's obviously a blessing to play the game, and he obviously knows that and enjoys it, and that's a whole separate thing. But he kind of is in the same scenario year round, and to be the best player in the world, I wouldn't necessarily want to be in that situation. But I do feel like Georgia kind of has a better scenario than the Cannons. Yes. They have some proven names before. They just have to mesh into this group, and also some young guys who are ready and are playing hard and kind of just have to step up. And and I think they understand that now. You kind of saw it toward the end of the year when they were making that playoff push. Like they kind of got over the bright-eyed, bushy-tailed, oh my God, I'm playing with Lyle Thompson, to oh my God, I'm playing with Lyle Thompson. I need to step up and do my thing, or we're going to be sitting at home. They kind of understand now, he's expecting you to step up because it's the big leagues. This is what's happening now. So I kind of think they had that breakthrough kind of toward the end of the year, and we'll start to see them put the pieces together. I don't think they'll be as good as people are expecting them to be this year, but in a year, 2-3 years, they'll be exactly where people think that they should be this year.
Yeah, so looking at their month of December, they only have 2 games. They kick things off on December 3rd as well, at home, hosting Rochester, and then December 17th, they are at home against the Wings. So 2 home games in the month of December, Rochester and Philly. I have them going 1-1. I think they'll beat Rochester. I think they'll lose to the Wings. How do you feel about December for the Swarm?
So they got the Wings. Who they play?
They open against Rochester at home, and then they're home against the Wings.
For some weird reason, I think Connor Fields and Rochester are going to beat Georgia to start the year. But that's why Georgia's going to end up beating Philadelphia.
All right. We love the spiciness.
Got
to remember that for picks. Got to remember that for the picks.
Oh, I'll remember that one. Don't worry.
Then going into the new year, they are home again against the Buffalo Bandits. Then the following week, they go to Buffalo. And those are their 2 games in January. So only 2 games in January for Georgia, and they're both against Buffalo.
0-2? Question mark? Can I say that? Am I allowed to say that?
You can't say that.
I can't?
I mean, you can say it, but
Only you know.
only because I'm going to say it too.
No, you can't say that either.
Oh, man.
This is my pocket. Nah.
0-2 as well. February does not get easier. They go to Colorado to take on the Mammoth. Then they're home against Toronto, on the road against Toronto, home against Albany.
2-2. They're splitting with Toronto. And then I think they'll take care of business with Albany, but I don't think they have enough to keep up with Colorado.
I'm going 1-3.
Ooh,
Because
spicy.
a bunch of those Albany boys are former Georgia Swarm boys. There's going to be a bit of revenge on the mind going back to Georgia. I'm going to say 1-3. They'll take one of the games against Toronto. Then, the month of March, Georgia goes to Albany. They're home against Rochester, home against the Wings. Then they're on the road against the Riptide, and then home against the Riptide. So 5 total games: Albany, Rochester, Philly, 2 against New York.
I say 2-3.
We're on the same page. I agree. 2-3 is the call. And if they're going to want to make the playoffs at that point, if they're in the mix, they're going to have to go 4-1 that month.
Mm-hmm.
Hot take. Then the final month of the season, they go to Halifax, home against Saskatchewan, go to Albany, go to Rochester, and then home against Halifax. So Halifax on the road, Saskatchewan at home, road against Albany, road against Rochester, home against Halifax. 5 games in April.
I think they flip it and go 3-2 in April.
I'm there as well. I think 3-2 is the call, which is pretty close to us having the same record, if not the same. For Georgia, you have them at 2, 4, 6. You have them at 9-9, which is right where we feel Georgia is, kind of 500. That's what they went last year. I am at 1, 2, 4. 1, 2, 4. I have them at 8-10. Your team MVP, the same as mine, being Lyle Thompson.
Yes. Nah, Brett Dobson. No. I'm excited to see him get his debut.
Agreed.
Whole time, homie's about to beat him out for the spot. I'm gonna look stupid.
Next up on the list before we get to the Albany Water Fire Drip Dog, their season preview is brought to you by our friends at Trophy Smack. Guys, you've been in your fantasy leagues for years now. DJ and I have been playing fantasy sports for as long as we can remember. And when you started, you were probably doing some of it on paper. And your trophies probably look a little busted. Well, you guys can up your fantasy smack talk by going to trophysmack.com/underground. They got trophies. They got belts. They got rings. They've got last place trophies. And Deej, I love to inform you of this. They've got metal wall art now that you can get made at trophysmack.com/underground. Use our link. It's in the description of both audio and YouTube. trophysmack.com/underground and get started on upgrading your fantasy smack talk. These the Albany Firewater Drip Dogs traded for a whole lot of the 2022 PLL champion Water Dogs Lacrosse Club this offseason. Kieran McCardle in the fold as the big trade. Riley O'Connor going to the New York Riptide, who we'll get to in just a little bit. Ethan Walker, now a member of this Albany squad. Connor Kelly on this team. Charlie Kitchen is obviously there. Jackson Reed is on this team. Jackson Nishimura is back on this team. Brett Manny is back as well. Jerome Thompson on this team, like you mentioned earlier in the show. Looking here just for some other guy. John Piatelli on this team. Brad Smith back with this squad. And obviously the boy, Joe Nardella, taking face-offs at the stripe. Albany did a lot of overhauling and kind of took what the Buffalo Bandits are doing, reunited a bunch of the Water Dogs together, have a bunch of Whip Snakes together, and trying to get guys to play year-round together. It's also kind of similar to, in a way, what the Wings do. Obviously, they don't all play together, but those three guys, playing year-round in Blaze, Rambo, and Trevor. I really like what Albany did this offseason. I think it's a smart move. Keeps those core Water Dogs guys together. You add Jackson Reed into the fold with Brad Smith and Nards to have those three Whip Snakes guys together. It's just going to create a competitive balance in practice every week that I think is going to make this team a lot better than what they were last year. Obviously, it's tough when you lose an MVP candidate in Joe Resiteritz to a division rival. But I like the blueprint of the future for this Albany team. I don't know if it will all transpire this season per se, but I like the direction they're going, and I like the vision that this front office has for this team. You're muted.
It's an extremely smart idea. You look at it, and it's happening all across the league. And it's a really smart idea. Really, that's really all it comes down to is getting your guys used to each other on a consistent basis, playing with each other all year round, a stick in their hands all year round. Like, how do you get better at lacrosse? Repetition. Like, how do you learn something? Repetition. So just to continuously get that repetition with guys year round is how you get better. That's why Buffalo has gone to 2 straight championships. I don't know why they can't win it, but they're there, so, it speaks for something there. I just, they don't have them all on the same team, but they're doing a lot of what the Wings and San Diego are doing, where they have guys that are playing both. They just don't play together year round.
Yeah, I'm just waiting for Albany to trade multiple first-round picks for Liam Burns next to bring him in for this Firewater Drip Dogs team. But the month of December, they also only have 2 games to each. They're one on the road, one at home. Albany opens up against Buffalo on the road, and then they are at home, hopefully for more goalie fights, against Rochester. For this one, I have them going 1-1 to start the season.
Yeah, no better way to put it. Real simple and plain.
And then going into the new year, this is how their schedule looks in January. They host Halifax, then they go to Halifax, they host the Riptide, and those are their 3 games in January. 2 against Halifax, 1 against the Riptide.
2-1.
I'm right there with you. I think they'll split with Halifax, and they'll get one over on the Riptide.
That makes one of you.
They're at home against the Riptide. Home field advantage.
Okay.
I'm just saying what I like.
Me too.
February. They go to Philly. They go to New York. Home against Vegas. On the road against Georgia.
Pull off a 3-1 here.
I have them at 2-2. but I don't hate 3-1. I think 3-1 is possible, but I'm gonna stick with 2-2 there. Month of March, they host Georgia. They go to Toronto, go to New York, and then they host Toronto. So Georgia, 2 against Toronto, and New York.
2-2.
I have them going 1-3 in the month of March. I think those Toronto games are gonna be tough. I think Toronto just has like camaraderie, chemistry where that team has been together. They know how to win. And then I think Georgia gets one of their wins against Albany. And then month of April, we've got April Fool's Day lacrosse in Panther City. Albany goes to Panther City. They go to Rochester. They're home against Georgia, home against the Wings, and then home against Buffalo. So 5 total games to round out the season. At Panther City, at Rochester, home against Georgia, Philly, and Buffalo.
3-2. I think they win the first 3 and close out the year on 2 losses.
Yeah, I'll go 3-2 as well. I was contemplating a 2-3, just because I think that Panther City game is a wild card. But I'm gonna go 3-2 as well, which puts Albany for DJ at 1, 3, 6, 8, 11, and 7.
Like
Probably gets them in the playoffs.
I like that.
And then that has me having Albany at 1, 3, 5, 6, 9, and 9, which I don't hate either. I think that's kind of where I have them in my brain right now, still kind of at that 500 mark. They could be a little better, could be a little worse, but I like 9 and 9. Deej, your team MVP for Albany.
It's got to be the boy Kieran.
I'm on the same page as you. Which brings us to your New York Riptide. A lot of offseason changes. They bring in Riley O'Connor, reunite him with Callum Crawford. Kieran McCardle, gone. But obviously you have Jeff Teat back in the fold for another year. You have Callum Crawford back. Tyler Digby back with this team. Damon Edwards back. Jake Fox. Ron John. Currently right now on the active roster, Chris Gray. Jordy Jones-Smith on this team. Connor Kiernan back on that big 5-year contract. The boy Dan Lomas is back. Dan McCray is back. Dylan Malloy is on this team. Your boy, Michigan man Brent Noseworthy on this team.
Go Blue.
Looking here. On the active roster right now, also pretty interesting, Cade Van Raphorst on this team.
Interesting.
A lot of interesting pieces on this Riptide team. They made some adjustments. They went and got another, big piece to go alongside T and Callum with Riley O'Connor. Obviously, Kieran gone, and we were sad about that. But I don't know. This Riptide team, I feel like this is a year where a lot of people are expecting them to take like that next step and kind of get out of the basement druthers, be in the mix for a wild card spot, and be competing to get into the playoffs. I like some of the moves they made. I'm not a fan of all of them, but I think a lot of them make sense for where they want to go and how they're trying to push their chips in the middle to get to the postseason. We will be at their opening game on December 3rd, so if you will be at the Coliseum, come say what's up. Deej is going to be taking in his first NLL game in person, and they're taking on the San Diego Super Seals, Deej. Their month of December is pretty interesting. They got the Super Seals at home, and then they've got the Halifax Thunderbirds at home. How are you feeling about this Riptide team, and then what are your expectations for the month of December?
I'm Opposite of you, I'm really excited about the moves they made this summer. I think all of them were very smart and what they're trying to do right now. Looking at their team, it's not similar to my high school team, but where they are in relevance to the rest of the league is similar to my high school team. They haven't been to the playoffs in so long that is their main focus.
Haven't been ever.
It's simply just winning to get to the playoffs. Like, they're at that stage. And so, like, I think they made all the right moves to win games. That is their sole, like, objective this year, is they just want to win games. Like, I would assume that they've circled a number in their locker room that they want to win this year. And even if they win that and they don't make the playoffs, they're happy because they won that many games. Like, that is where they're at. And I think they are making the moves to win that many games and, like, do that. And they did it offensively, and then they'll handle defense this year, et cetera, et cetera. Like, rebuilding a team, you always have to start one place at a time. They picked the offense first. I feel like all the moves they made were great. Really excited to see what they have moving forward. But I do think they're going to be 1-1. They'll drop to the Seals, but they'll come back and beat Halifax.
I think the only like thing that I'm saying in terms of like not liking their moves is like I feel like they pushed all their chips in 1 year too soon. Like, I still feel like they needed to develop a little bit more with the young guys on this roster. I did still kind of feel like Kieran was part of that puzzle. But, you know, we'll see, pushing the chips in for an older player and Riley O'Connor, reuniting him with Callum Crawford and what that does for them. You said 1-1 for December. I think I'm right.
Yeah.
I think I'm right there with you. 1-1 is going to be the call for me. Looking into the month of January, then they're back home to start the new year against Toronto, home against Rochester, so 4 straight home games for the Riptide. I will be on Long Island a lot, potentially, allegedly. Then they are on the road for the first time against Albany. Then they are home again against Buffalo. So 3 home games to start the new year. Toronto, Rochester, Albany, Buffalo. Battle of New York almost every single freaking week in January.
Oh my God. That's such a tough month, too. As much as I want to be a homer, they're gonna go 1-3.
I have 1-3 as well.
I think they squeeze out against Rochester, but the rest are gonna be very tough.
Then February rolls right along. They've got they go on the road against Toronto, home against Albany, on the road against Halifax, on the road against Rochester.
I like a bounce back here and go 3-1. Even the table back out.
I have 2-2. I think they'll lose to Toronto. They'll probably lose to Halifax to kind of split that up for me just in my brain. They'll play Albany tough. It wouldn't shock me if they lose that, but it also wouldn't shock me if they win it. That's why I'm going to go 2-2. And then they'll beat Rochester. Then, month of March, 11:30 a.m. Eastern Time at the Farg, playing the Wings in Philly. And then they are home against Philly for their next game, home against Albany, home against Georgia. So on the road against Philly, and then 3 straight home games against the Wings, the Firewolves, and the Swarm. That is the East Division gauntlet right there.
I'll take a 2-2 there.
I'm going to say 1-3. Don't know where they'll get the win, but I'm going to say 1-3. That's tough. Just where they're all spotted. I'm sorry, they also have another game in March on the road against Georgia.
I'll drop that one. 2-3, I guess.
I'll give them 2-3 as well. Then the month of April, they've got 3 games. At Buffalo, at Halifax, at Vancouver to end the season. All 3 on the road.
Ooh. Ooh, 1-2.
I'm going to say 0-3 because at Vancouver to end the season, final game of the year, time change, going west, that's tough. And I kind of think Vancouver and the Riptide are on a very similar trajectory almost with, some of the moves they've made and just where they are as franchises. So I'm going to say 0-3. You've got them at 1-2, which Deej, your New York Riptide 2022-2023 prediction record-wise is 1, 2, 5, 7, 8, which puts them at 8-10, which I think would be a franchise record for wins in a season. I've got them at 1, 2, 4, 6, 6-12, which I also believe might be a franchise record for wins in a season. I just, like I said when we were breaking it all down, I think they might have pushed their chips in a season too soon, and they might just need one more draft to get that one extra young guy in the fold. Would it shock me if they win 8 games this year? Not at all. Would it shock me if, they surpass 8 wins? Not at all. I really like their coaching staff, really like a lot of the guys on this team. You just need to see it more consistently from them and, them finish games. Your team MVP for the Riptide.
It's got to be Callum Crawford.
We are split on that. I'm going to go the one and only Jeff Teat.
Of course.
So that is our East Division breakdown, which has the East looking like this for both of us, Deej. You've got Philly at 10-8. You've got Georgia at 9-9. You've got Albany at 11-7. You've got New York at 8-10. I've got the Wings at 13-5. Georgia at 8-10. Albany at 9-9, and New York at 6-12. So there it is, everybody. We'll look back on this in April and see how stupidly wrong we were. But those are our season breakdowns for the 2022-2023 NLL season. And next week we'll have picks, which is exciting. But we're going to kick it over to our conversation with head coach and GM of the Philadelphia Wings, Paul Day. So stick around. You don't want to miss it. Very excited for this one. We'll be right back. All right, everybody. As we said on social media, a long-awaited guest on the Outside the Box podcast is finally here. And it's fitting that, leading up to this, we did our old school East Division season preview for this NLL season, which involves the Philadelphia Wings. And joining us is the head coach and GM of the Philadelphia Wings, Paul Day, on the Outside the Box podcast. Coach, finally thrilled to have you on the show. It's been 4 years in the making, and I'm very excited to have you on the show here to get us set for another season of Wings Lacrosse in South Philly.
Well, hey, thanks for having me, fellas, and thanks for everything you do for the game in Philadelphia and beyond. We really appreciate it, guys.
So I think my first question kind of dates back to late last season, and obviously, when you meet with us after games and everything, it's such a condensed time, so you don't get a chance to really break it all down. But I feel like a lot of the off-season moves kind of started mid-season for you guys last year to kind of get to where we got to this summer. And it started with Kyle Jackson being, surprisingly released by the Halifax Thunderbirds, and we were able to go sign him in free agency. Obviously, you have a connection with KJ47 from his time in Rochester, but take me through, bringing KJ to Philadelphia, bringing Sam LeClaire in via trade, and some of the moves that kind of felt like, even though the Wings were on the, trajectory to make the postseason like they were last year, it kind of felt like both of those moves were for the now and for the future as well.
Yeah, I mean, I think, it was a pretty unique time, 2020 when the season ended until we finally played in 2022. So a long time, but, we had in the summer of 2021 when we didn't have a season, obviously we're preparing for a possible season, I guess, summer of 2020, I should say, for a 2021 season. So, we added some guys, Krepensek, and, we added Corey Small. And, at that point, you think you're playing in, 3 or 4 months, but you don't end up playing for 18 months. And we already had Brett Hickey and Kevin Crowley, guys that were getting a little older. So, there was probably opportunity for us to pick up some young guys in the offseason in 2020 and 2021, but we wanted to see how it worked together. I'm really talking more offensively than anything. And I think we found last season that chemistry wasn't great, but we were older and we were a little slower offensively. So not that we wouldn't have wanted to bring some of the guys back, but there was definitely, we need to get younger. We need to get faster. And the two players you mentioned, they fit that bill. We need to get faster and more transition defensively. So, Chad Tutton's been a guy he's exciting to watch. People will love him in Philly. He's real physical, but he never stops going. He's an energized bunny, which translates to the dressing room or the locker room and practice on the bench. That's another thing we thought we really needed. Like, we've had some guys who are great leaders in Kevin and Brett, but they're kind of on the quieter side. And, Tuts is a guy that really ramps people up. He's like John Rannigan, but a Canadian version of him, and more violent. And violent's a word I use to describe the way people play, as in it's physical. We need more physicality in Philly. So I mean, our guys defensively, we play really well positionally, but we need to play more physical. So he fits in. He played with Randy and Georgie. He played with Ian Lord in Peterborough. He played with Schul in Peterborough. So he's played with guys in the summer. And then obviously Joey Rez is another guy. Joey's a high energy guy. He's a goal scorer, different than Kevin. Kevin's a playmaker. Kevin will obviously be at the top of a power play. He's a bit of a field general when he's offensively, where Joey, he's getting 40 plus goals every year because he's driving the net and make things happen. And we found the defense have changed the last 3 or 4 years in our league, where it's pack it in. But if you don't have guys, we're lucky enough we got Rambo on the one side that'll drive the net. Blazer can drive it, KJ. We don't really have that on the right side. So now Sammy's fast, but it's a second full year in the league. But Joey Rez, obviously, we thought he was the most dangerous scorer in the league. And again, like, I've been with Joey in Peterborough and I've been with him in Rochester. He's always going. It's energy on the bench, in the room, practice, and that's what we needed, And I like the direction we're going.
Yeah, we had Joe on right after he signed this summer, and I don't think I've heard somebody as excited as him to come to Philadelphia and just be immersed in the culture and wanting to, be here for what he said has been a long time coming. So I'm excited to be able to watch Joe in a Wings uniform now rather than in a New England Black Wolves or an Albany Firewolves jersey. But you mentioned, a bunch of the guys play for you in Peterborough. And I think that's been a trend across the league, whether it is, summer box leagues or guys that play together in the PLL. A lot of these teams are starting to assemble guys that can play together year-round now. How beneficial do you think that is for this team, knowing that you guys have a bunch of the Peterborough guys, obviously the Bandits, a bunch of those guys playing for Chaos in the PLL, and Albany doing a similar thing where they went out and assembled a bunch of the Water Dogs from the PLL this offseason to bring into the fold. How much of a benefit do you think that is for the box game to have guys playing year-round together?
I think it's huge chemistry-wise. I mean, guys will talk a lot about offensive chemistry, but defensive chemistry is really, really important because, we get in practice, they're always talking and they're being vocal, but there's 12 or 18,000 people. You need to know what the guy beside you is doing. It'd be like in a Sixers game, same thing. You can talk all you want, but you need to know what the guy's doing. If you're, let's say we play 36 games in a summer, and then we play 18 in our league plus the playoffs. It really translates. So I think it's important, and it's important that guys know what the guy beside them is doing, and they trust each other. Trust is huge. So, obviously I think we're fortunate. We still have 8 or 9 guys from our very first season in the league, and the Charbonneau guys like that, TB, Blaze, Rambo, they've all kind of grown together. Eric Schul, which has been great. So, and then we've just added those pieces that, I guess chemistry that works together. Obviously, Blaze and Rambo have worked together before, played well. KJ and Vitarelli have played together in Roch before, so it's important. And Matisse and Rezateris, if you look at Game 7 in the Mann Cup this year, they were the difference makers in the third period, playing offense together and creating some goals. So, the other guy we haven't talked about, Hunter Lemieux, had a really good camp for us. He's a real big body. Just think Corey Vittorelli at 6'2", and another Buffalo kid. And, just like Rezi, grew up playing the box game and didn't play field till they were a little older. So we like that blue-collar attitude. He's real physical. So, I mean, he's not going to play every night likely, but you don't know. And he's had a real good camp. And I watched him in the summers up here playing in Burlington Junior A for Krepensek and Brett Hickey and Dan McRae, the captain in New York. So he's learned the right way, and I think he's going to fit in great with us.
I think one of the most frequent questions that I get asked in my Twitter DMs, we get asked about to talk on the podcast, and it's been like the ever-long question that we just haven't been afforded the opportunity to ask until now. A lot of people ask us, what happened with Brock Sorensen? Obviously, he was a big trade acquisition going into the season that never happened in 2020. So a lot of people ask us, what happened to that? Because it felt like he was like that big anchor piece to this defense to kind of be that big body in the middle, and then obviously didn't play last season due to injury. But a lot of people ask us, so I figured I'd ask, what is the situation with Brock Sorensen?
Yeah, Brock, he's changed jobs a couple times. He works in the high-tech industry, so he's a salesman. He last winter he ended up in West Palm Beach, Florida, working, and so he's been traveling a lot. Last I talked to him about a month ago, he's in New Orleans working, so he's been traveling a lot for work. I'd say never with Brock, but he's early 30s now, and at that point last year, it was a kind of an opportunity that he couldn't give up. And we talked in October a little bit about possibly coming back. He was getting the itch after watching the Mann Cup, but it's tough on some of these guys that, he goes to Ohio State, then he plays a lot of lacrosse, couple of knee injuries, Achilles in the Mann Cup in 2019. And then he starts focusing on his job, and COVID hits, and he really focuses on his career, and, obviously progresses and gets some great jobs. So, at this point, he's not committed to playing lacrosse again, but, we still stay in touch. And it's funny, the day I was driving to Toronto with my family. We're going to go see Harry Potter, and my stepdaughter asked about Brock Sorensen, and I was thinking that day, I'm going to reach out to him next week. And we came out of the Harry Potter play, 2 or 3 hours. It was long. It was like 3 hours later, and I had a text from him saying he's kind of itchy again. So you never know. That was pretty good karma, I thought, that day. And that was in October. So, last year he was going to be a late addition. We were thinking he'd get healthy by March. And that was just, he had the Achilles, and he was training really well. And then he had a bit of a setback on the other leg. So, as these guys get older, they have some injuries. But I don't want to ever say never, but, he'd be a great addition. He'd fit right in our room too.
So there you go, everybody. There is the question that has been asked a number of times.
Yeah, we thought last March we had planned that he was going to be almost a trade deadline acquisition, and just turned out that he had a setback. And obviously this summer we knew he wasn't going to be playing in Peterborough just because of work. But you never know.
Yeah, I want to backtrack real quick. So I'm only 8 years into lacrosse, and last year was my first year watching box. So I did the whole YouTube marathon, because I don't know if you know, the NLL dropped every game from 2019, I think it was, on YouTube, and I watched all those games, so I could kind of know what was going on.
Yeah.
So kind of, you brought up those guys that have been there since the beginning. Where do you feel the team has gone since the beginning, and where they are now and what you expect this season?
Yeah, I mean, I think we kind of had a 3-year plan, like everybody coming in. Lucky enough that, Landon and I and Rubes are still here. And the one person we didn't talk about this year is Jeff McComb we were able to sign as our offensive coordinator from Saskatchewan. And he's run the best offense for, the last 10 years. We've all copied it, and it's great having him in camp. And, he's a year younger than me. We played up just beating the crap out of each other. He's in Whitby guy. I'm a Peterborough guy, but he's super smart. So I'm so excited to have him. So we had that, 3-year plan, then a year and a half of no lacrosse, and we kind of stuck with that plan last season until the deadline. And we got spanked in Buffalo, and it was like, okay, it's a deadline next week. We need to make changes. So it forced us to make those changes. So, I really think guys like Trevor Baptiste, Isaiah Davis-Allen, Sharbs has had an unbelievable camp. Blaze and Rambo, those guys, have been here since day one. Their game has elevated so much, in the past 3.5, 4 seasons, whatever you want to call it. So, and the addition of Joey and Tuts and Hunter Lemieux, I think we're a little younger. We're going to be a little faster. We're going to be more exciting. And I think we're heading in the right direction. And you guys know this league. It's anybody can win. No one picked Colorado to win last year. Great goaltending.
Except him.
As soon as we were eliminated, Coach, I backtracked to when Devin Caney and Renee Washington had me at NLL HQ and they were doing like the week-to-week shows. And I picked Colorado to go to the championship in 2019, and they fell 1 goal short against, I think, Calgary, who ended up winning it all. So I backtracked, and I was like, maybe I was just a couple years early. So as soon as we were eliminated, I was all in on Colorado taking the chip, and I was very excited when they did.
And similar to us, good goaltending. He was unbelievable in the playoffs last year, and has been, Dylan's been one of the best goalies people don't talk about a lot. If he was in the East, probably people talk to him a lot better. So similar to our team, good goaltending. I think we're really well-rounded. We're going to have good secondary scoring. We're going to have to create and transition more, and that's, been a real focus of ours. But, I like the position we're in here. I like our schedule too. We're not finishing with 6 of 7 on the road, and we got to win 4 of those. That was tough last year, but a really good, I think a really good test of our character last year going in the playoffs to get in there on a pretty tough road. And starting on the road here, we don't mind. It's, really good to – we've been excited to get to Halifax year 1, COVID. Last year we had to play with no fans in Hamilton. It was a great game. So we're pretty excited to get out there. And, obviously that's my old franchise. And it looks like it's a great building. I've been there before for the World Championships of Lacrosse, but pretty excited to get started on the road. And then back to Georgia. We seem to play Georgia every second week. So,
and it's always 11-10 against Georgia, no matter what.
10 or 12-10. You know what? And, we love playing in Georgia. So pretty excited to play them. We're spending the weekend this weekend with them in Onondaga with the Thompsons. So we've got a lot of going on in the community there, but we're pretty excited to get home. And hopefully the people of Philly will jump on some seasons tickets here and a lot of theme nights to see. And I think it's going to be a lot of fun opening up with our friend Tracy Kluski and the Fort Worth Panther City, whatever they're called. I'm confused always.
So you brought up the schedule. I have not picked a favorite team yet, and I haven't been to a game yet. But I told KB that I was 1,000% coming to a Philly game this year. What is one you would recommend in 2023? Because I'm booked in December.
Yeah. Home openers are always great. Home openers are great. Anytime we play Georgia is a real battle. I got to be honest too. Like any Eastern game, other than Fort Worth, every team we play at home is going to be an Easter team. It's a unbelievable battle. Like I gotta tell you, Buffalo comes to town. They're one of the most exciting teams to play. We played them last weekend. Had a real good game. Had them tied 9-9 going in the fourth. We got down a little early, and that was their 3rd game of the preseason, so our first. So they're a real talented and fun team to watch as well. So I would say if you can get to the home opener against Panther City, the place will be electric. And then if you can get there, if we play Buffalo or Georgia, just because. And if you like fight night, Rochester Night will come to town. That's one of my best friends who coaches that team, but we seem to have an unbelievable battle with Rochester every time they come. So
yeah. So what happened last year with
the year
Dustin
before? It's been 2
and
straight.
Rannigan, like
2 years in a row. We always seem to be playing each other back to back, and then guys are angry and traveling all weekend. The same thing. Like we're back to back. We're home against Georgia, and then we're in Rochester on a Sunday afternoon. So always seems back to back, and we a lot of guys are real good friends. You know, probably 5 or 6 guys from our Peterborough team on that as well. So 3/4 of the Peterborough team plays on us or Rochester, and boy, do we go at each other. But that's the nature of the game. And then everybody has a couple of yinglings after and enjoy the night.
Yeah, we had last year going into the new year, we had the back of the Bird Boys, Dan Lomas and Paul Dawson on. We asked Paul his perspective of the first fight night that happened. And he said, we were just getting chippy in each other's ears, and we just decided to drop the gloves. And then 120 penalty minutes later, that was fight night 1.0 at the Farg.
Yeah, and that's really what the league used to be like in the 90s and early 2000s was. And people don't understand it, but it's that kind of hockey mentality from a lot of us, and that kind of carries over. It's exciting for the fans, and I don't think anybody gets hurt, but we don't mind to play that way. And obviously, we have a great deal of respect for that organization too. But it's fun some nights, and like I said, no one gets hurt, and we all have a good time after.
So there's 3 guys that have been on my mind. One of them we've brought up a couple times here with Isaiah Davis-Allen. I wanted to ask you about just, his progression from, being at Maryland, playing the field game, and then playing playing for you guys since day one pretty much, and how he's kind of progressed from year one to now, and just seeing how well he's adapted the box game and become such a pivotal player for this team. And then somebody you talk a lot about is a friend of the show, Alex Pace. He's, really developed into a core piece of this team. And then on the offensive side as well, pairing Joey Resiteritz with Ben McIntosh. How excited are you for that?
Yeah, I mean, IDA, the first year, he had to spend a lot of time on the practice roster and, kind of worked his way to the main roster. And he played the last 4 or 5 games of the season, and then hit the right ground running in the next year, and has just continued to get better and better. And he's got a great rapport with Pacer. They do play together a lot of times. So, I think he's really picked up the little parts of the game. And I think, again, it's a great situation that, they're never playing box and being a good athlete coming out of college. Your kind of ceiling, it's high. And these guys are getting better, and we expect more from them. And, the one thing we expect from all of our defensemen this year, especially a guy like IDA, is you need to be more physical. You need to be more chippy. You know how to play the game now. So now you got to step up and use those skills. If you're a takeaway guy in the field game with a short stick, go and take the ball away once in a while. Go be aggressive, step up that physicality. So we've really focused on that. Speaking of Pacer's probably our best defenseman, and he's, young guy, 24 years old. And finally, we get to go to Halifax, his hometown. Not a lot of guys from Halifax in the NLL, and maybe him and one other guy. And that's his hometown. We haven't got to get there. So I'm pretty excited to see that. And he won his first championship in lacrosse this summer playing in Peterborough for us, and he was probably our best defender there as well. So not bad for a second-round pick, and we're pretty fortunate to get him. And another second-round pick, him and TB, they've played the most games of any second-round picks in the last 4 seasons, 3 seasons, whatever they've been. So guys at TB has really picked up his game. We thought last year, a lot more physical, and obviously with the face-offs is great. But, yeah, Joe Rez, he can play with anybody. And I think we found that in this summer in the playoffs. He's so good at drawing 2 guys to him because he's dangerous. He can go over underneath, dive to the net, or he can rip it from the outside, turn in the corner, or shoot around screens. So it creates a lot of space, and I think him and Benny Mac will have pretty good rapport. Obviously, it's going to take some time, but the way Rezi plays, he also makes the lefts really, really good. You saw it a lot of times where he fakes that shot, and he looks like he's shooting. He fires it to Vitarelli, and it's in the net. So pretty excited to get him going, and pretty excited for people to get to see him in Philadelphia.
And then obviously with Joe coming in, that meant some departures. One of them being a franchise icon, franchise favorite, Kevin Crowley. What was that conversation with Kev like, when it was time to, eventually say, hey, we have to, move in a different direction? Kevin obviously going out to San Diego. What was, did you guys talk afterwards? What was that kind of, talk between you guys like as Kevin's now going out west?
Yeah, I think we were fortunate we got to talk to him, because he was still our property beforehand. And just said we don't know what's going to happen. Obviously, the rules to the CBA changed, August 5th and 6th, and then CBA opened up the 15th of August, where we could talk to people. So we wouldn't have had an opportunity to talk to Joe Rez if the age didn't change, which also made Kyle Matisse a free agent. So it was kind of good and bad at the same way. But I think Kevin was commuting a lot from Vancouver last year. He was in Philly at his place in Philly, but then he was working on a project in Vancouver, and I know he's got a place in Kitsilano, which is one of the most beautiful places in Vancouver. So I think we kind of made it easy for him. Obviously we have a cap. Everybody in this league has a cap, so there's only so much money we can spend. And Kevin, he was real happy that we were able to bring him back to Philly. One of our goals our first year when we got to Philly was get him back. And he was real excited that he could, the team is different. It's owned by the Flyers. It was real professionally run. Not that it wasn't run that way before, but it was more professional. So he was excited to be there for 3 years. And he said, I understand you're going to sign a first team All-Pro who led the league in goals last year. It's a no-brainer. And I think we made the decision for him that he's going to stay in the West. We'd be pulling him back. Most times we'd be traveling last year. He'd spend a lot of time on his laptop working on projects that he's trying to do out West. Now it's going to be easier for his life. And, he gave everything he could to the Wings. And, yeah, we'll never forget that. And it was, we have a great rapport with Kevin. So, obviously sad to see him go, but change is good for everybody. And I think bringing Joey in is going to be great for our organization.
Yeah, we've talked about, DJ and I, a number of changes that have happened just across the league this year. It feels like so many guys have moved to just different places. And what are your thoughts on just, the landscape change of just, all the player movement? Obviously, Las Vegas coming into the fold, who you guys will get a chance to go out to Vegas this year as well. But just seeing all the superstars kind of moving around with the new CBA and seeing guys on new teams now that you'll end up seeing at some point this season.
Yeah, I think it's great for parity. I think you're going to see, obviously bringing in expansion. I always see when expansion comes in, everybody loses a player and everybody ends up being more even. The better teams will lose a player, like Connor Fields out of Buffalo. He's gone. So there's 60, 70 points out of a guy. So everybody gets a little closer. I think it's great for the league, and we're pretty excited. I think the CBA has changed it. It wasn't a big CBA didn't change it a lot this year with big names, but I think if I remember looking at ages, we have a lot of 30 to 32-year-olds in our league right now. There's a lot. It's a big group. Those guys are all going to become unrestricted free agents here in the next year or two. Now you're going to see a lot of changes, and we try to do our work that anybody that's around that 28 to 31, sign them for 2 or 3 years and kind of protect ourselves. And we've been fortunate enough to have Comcast behind us. That really helps, and the Flyers. So we've been able to do that. We got Kyle Matisse for the next 3 years. We've got Joe Rezateers for the next 3 seasons. So our guys that were in danger of losing, we've been able to protect them. But there's going to be a lot of movement even after this season. So, I think it's great for the league as well. Obviously, seeing guys in different markets is going to be pretty exciting this year.
The Midwest market is very unsaturated, to say the least.
Yes. Let's get a team in St. Louis, Chicago. Let's go.
I mean, I want them to bring the Turbos back so bad.
He's a Michigan man, coach.
That is a 2-hour drive for me. Like, I'd have season tickets like that. I'm there, no question. Like, when do you think the league will start to spread more? Like, and I guess this is more of a, how do you feel with Commissioner Frood now being in, and where do you think he's going to take the league with what he does?
I really think the ownership in this league is so solid right now. For me personally, one more team, a 16th team in the West or Midwest would be fantastic. And I think we should kind of focus on making sure that everybody's really solid. But yeah, Detroit, man, I played in Detroit when I played for the Bennett. It was a great market. Paul and Gary were there, the Gates, and it would be a great market. You got a new arena there, obviously. Yeah, one team in the Midwest or West, and then at 16 from there, we kind of, I think, just keep it solid. So I think he's really focused on, just listening to him on podcasts and on shows of really growing the brand and, get more marketing, get players in more marketing, get more TV, get more exposure. So, and I think that's a fantastic idea. So, because it's still, like you said, it's unsaturated. Well, our game in general, you bring someone or they see it on TV or they watch it once, they're blown away. Like my wife was a hockey person till she met me 12 years ago, and she'd be like, I don't think I'd ever go to an NHL game again. Like you're seeing 30 goals and people just attacking each other with the ball, without the ball. It's just the music's playing. So I think that, you come to a Wings game, that's exactly what you're going to see. And, any market we go to, I think like a place like Detroit would be great. St. Louis, Chicago, it has never really been there in St. Louis. So those are where I see it. Those are not coming from anybody other than myself. But I know I'm a hockey guy, and I think those are markets that would swallow it up. I always thought St. Louis lost an NFL team. We would go in there, we could fill a void for, for 15,000 people every night. And what a great market that would be.
I absolutely agree with that. I think any of those cities would pop off and, really take this league to that next level that I think it can really hit. And, how exciting has it been over the, last season now and going into this year, Coach, that, the Philadelphia Wings and the entire league on ESPN and TSN?
Yeah, it's great. I mean, it'd be our first game on TSN because we didn't get to go to Halifax. So, yeah, it's we're the first game on TSN. We're pretty excited for that, and we haven't been on yet. And it's great. We're on ESPN a few times early in the season too. When we're in Vegas, that market looks like a great facility. Saw it on the weekend. They had a game against Colorado, and we're pretty pumped for that. So, I mean, we're one of the earliest games on ESPN as well. So I think we're on two of the first 3 weekends, perhaps. But I mean, it's fantastic. The more people get exposed to it, the more they're going to love it. So we can't ask for more.
And I think they've made Philadelphia kind of the test dummy for weekday lacrosse. Last year, you guys had Thursday night lacrosse against Buffalo. This year, you get Monday night hosting Toronto. Do you think there's a future for that in this league where we get more weekday lacrosse as this league continues to grow, probably once we get to a 16th team, where we'll see more and more markets kind of adapt, Thursdays and Mondays potentially?
Well, I think, that's kind of obviously TSN and ESPN Saturday nights are pretty busy with basketball, hockey, football, you name it. They're busy. So if we want to get national exposure, I think as a league, and obviously tickets are huge for us. They're the number one driver, but we've got to get on different nights so we have better exposure. And I think that's going to be important. Look at us. Like, we're lucky enough. Last year we were on 18 times, whether it was NBC Sports in Philly that the Flyers and the Sixers are on, or PH17. Like, we're getting great exposure in Philly. I mean, we go to some restaurants in Philly and people know what the Wings are. It's outstanding. So I think that, internationally, I'd say that because it's Canada and the U.S. The more we do that, the more opportunity we're going to have for players to get more exposure for marketing deals. And obviously that's big for us as a league. And I think that's why the commissioner is going to be, he was such a great choice as commissioner. That's his bread and butter. So I think he's going to do such a great job.
And I think one thing that we need to check off this season, because he did the entire Philly sports tour this summer into the fall. Whenever the Sixers have an off night, we need to get Tyrese Maxey to a Wings game, because he seems to, bring the good luck, and he just loves being in Philly. And we were talking before we started recording, just the busy fall that it was here in Philly with the Phillies, the Eagles' success right now. You have the Sixers, the Flyers, the Union going to the MLS Cup. How exciting is it for you as a coach in this town to just see like the camaraderie between all of the professional franchises supporting one another, going to each other's games? Obviously the Flyers home opener, Blazer was there, and you just have so many different players taking in all the different sports in this city that it really makes it feel like a connected fan base.
Yeah, I mean, guys are talking about it in training camp. Before we got to camp, guys are talking about it. Hey, listen, obviously the Eagles are pushing here right now, and they got a pretty good opportunity to win. But, we're going to, we say we want to be the team that can kind of close it. So we want to make sure we're ready. Guys know, and they're ready. And, I've been in that building for championships before. I've won one and lost one in Philly. So it's a pretty special place. You get your fans behind us in Philly, and that's what we plan to bring this year. So, I mean, it's been a great fall. We want to make sure that we continue that into the winter, and hopefully the Eagles continue that into February. But you get Maxie out; he could play lacrosse, man. I watched. My little guy's a huge Sixers fan, so I went to the game. They beat Atlanta, the Hawks, a couple weeks ago, and man, he was so good. Maxie, like he just never stops. So, how long is he out for?
I think they said I want to say he's getting reevaluated in 2 or 3 weeks, but I don't think it should be long term at least.
That might be some good rest for him too. Once he gets back, he'll be on fire. Yeah, I love watching that guy play basketball. Man, is he good?
Deej, any final thoughts for Coach before we see him again in the
I
new
don't see
year?
a Turbo shirt behind you there.
Yeah, I know. We got to work on that price tag. But no, just record guess for the year.
Oh, I never ever, no idea.
No
More
predictions
wins than
ever.
losses. How about that?
Undefeated.
Hey, that works for me.
More wins than losses. We got to get Steve Dietrich on here sometime, the GM of Buffalo. He played for the Turbos, so he was there. And Bob McMahon still coaches. He's in Calgary, assistant coach. He coached the Turbos. So there's a few people still around from the Turbos days.
Yeah, we got to bring those back. I'm all for it.
Great jerseys too.
I mean, if they want me to coach, play, GM, if they need something from me, I'm all for it.
Have your own show there. Let's go.
There we go.
There it is. I'm all for it.
Coach, looking forward to seeing you 9 times and hopefully more. Hopefully we get a home postseason game this year for the Wings at Wells Fargo Center. Looking forward to seeing you in the new year. Thanks for hopping on the show. You're welcome anytime, obviously. And looking forward to another successful Wings season in South Philly.
Thanks very much, guys. Get the fans out there. Get them buying some seasons tickets. And got lots of theme nights, so get them out there and check wingslax.com. We appreciate what you guys do for the game, and reach out if you ever need anything. Let's go Wings.
Big thank you to Coach Day for hopping on the show. Big thank you to the Philadelphia Wings communications staff for hooking that up for us. Always love working with the Wings. They are, a world-class organization in all of sports, and very fortunate to have them in our corner. Deej, we're sitting here. We're talking. We're going to do it for the sickos. Don't know if this will be on the actual podcast or not, but you'll know by the time you're listening to it, because we'll see where we are in terms of, because breaking the fourth wall, we haven't interviewed Coach Day yet. We're going to do what we did last week and have some fun going into the holidays here. We're going to have some fun going into the holiday weekend and run it back. Surprise Tops opening 2.0. I've got my other package right here, not doxing myself. Deej has his packs, and like pure sickos, we have more on the way. So this will not be the last opening we do. But Deej, I'll let you start this one off as I take my packs out here. You obviously ordered all 10 of yours together. I ordered 5 and 5. Feeling these right now, just like we did last time. I do feel some heaviness, which is nice, but I do feel a little bit more thinness than I did last time. Which I'm like, I don't know how I feel about that. But you kick us off.
Let's see what I got.
Which our surprise Tops opening brought to you by the homies over at Kenwood Beer. Go to kenwoodbeer.com. Use that all new and improved Kenny tracker to see who's got Kenwood Beer on tap in the Philadelphia area. You got to be 21 or older to do so. And, of course, please drink responsibly. We'll probably have our openings spliced together as one full video at some point, too. So you can see that. And Deej and I have packs coming again because we're sickos like that. We just love opening packs. And if the PLL wants to sponsor a pack or box breaks, Mike, we'll
You
do
know
it.
where to hit us.
We'll do it. But that's all we got for you guys this week. Shout out to Coach Day for hopping on the show once again. And make sure you guys are following us at OTB LaxPod, Twitter and Instagram. We're really going to step up the Instagram content this year now that we feel capable and knowing what to do to kind of splice together for the algorithm and reels and all that good stuff because we just love video. Twitter and Instagram at OTB LaxPod. Follow DJ at SCS_NextGreat on Twitter. Follow me at KBIZZL311. Subscribe to the podcast feed, Apple Podcast, Spotify. Some ratings have been coming through, Deej. Some 5-star ratings have been coming through.
Oh.
Keep them coming. Keep them coming. Leave a review. 5-star ratings and reviews really help go a long way to help the show continue to grow. Also got sent somebody trying the fruitcake dew. Shout out to Strebin, listener of this pod and streamer season.
Oh, I bought that, by the way. I don't think I told you, but I bought it.
I still got a cop.
It's in the fridge.
We'll get to that eventually. Make sure you subscribe to the podcast feed. Subscribe to the YouTube channel as well, youtube.com/@undergroundsportsphiladelphia. That's where you get full video episodes.
Do we do a live
I was thinking that.
during the watch along?
Hey,
The long-awaited Purple Thunder?
if we get 320 YouTube subscribers before next week, that's 9 new subscribers.
Like that.
We'll do not one. Well, here, 320, we do 1 do review. 350, we do 2.
I like that.
So there you go. Gauntlet's been thrown. We'll clip this. But subscribe. YouTube.com/@undergroundsportsphiladelphia. You get full video episodes of every show. And subscribe, smash that like button, ring the bell icon, comment down below your thoughts on our East Division, quote-unquote, predictions. And next week, Deej, we're back feeding some ducks. We got picks on deck next week. And we've got NLL action on the horizon. Very excited. Very pumped. You'll be here. Live watch along on YouTube for Wings Thunderbirds. But until then, this has been episode number 249 of the allegedly award-nominated, number 9 ranked NCAA and Shrek ranked official lacrosse podcast, Outside the Box, on the Underground Sports Philadelphia Podcast Network. For Deej, I'm KB. Next week's episode 250. Let's fucking go. But until then, we're getting the heck out of here. NLL is back. Peace.
Peace.